Did you find it? No. Acts chapter 1. Acts is in the New Testament, darling. 4th book from the New Testament. So find Matthew in the New Testament. What book is that? You found it? Read Acts chapter 1, verse 8. Is she the only one with a Bible here? How? You are playing. Yes, Acts chapter 1, verse 8. Yes, what does it say? Thank you. Up to right there. It says the Holy Spirit will give you power and you shall receive it. But now what kind of power does the Holy Spirit give us? What kind of power do you think the Holy Spirit gives us? Yes, Aya.
He gives us power to go through the day.
What else? To speak in tongues. Okay, what else?
Learn.
To learn. Good. So the Holy Spirit will come and give you power. He gives us power to do the right thing. Okay? The Holy Spirit will give us power to do the right thing. Power to tell the truth. Did you know that? The Holy Spirit gives us power to tell the truth. And power to tell others about Jesus. Who has told others about Jesus this week at school? What did you tell? What did you say?
God loves me.
Yes, that's good. Mommy told you that, you read that in the Bible. What did you tell someone else today? Not today, but this week.
I told my friend about Jesus. Then she's like, how do you talk to him? Then I'm like, how you pray? Then she's like, what is praying? Then I told her how to pray.
Okay. Good. Vale?
I told them that Jesus can forgive your sins.
That's good. Yes. What?
I say my family say, I.
Good. Come, give this one. All right. So we must all learn to tell others about Jesus. What did you tell? Did you tell someone about Jesus this week? What did you say? Come tell me. What did you say? You forgot?
If I got.
Okay, good. It's okay to forget. There's no crime in that. Right. So we learned that the Holy Spirit gives us this power. Ne? We can access this power by connecting to Jesus. Like you said, Aya, by praying to God, and He will give us this power. Now, can we close our eyes and we will say this prayer after it? Close your eyes and say this prayer after me. Dear God, thank you for giving me power. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Verita, for the inspirational story. And I'm very, very hopeful that our children have been inspired with your story. Welcome again to Kempton Park Central, the best church in the world. I would like to give an introduction to the panel front for those people who are new in this church. The lady who gave us the special prayer, that's Mrs. Mudise. The offertory was done by Mrs. Kaisi. Your brother here, Brother Tibani. And the preacher of the day is Brother Siabonga Kunene. But before he raises up, we would like to the church to stand up and make use of hymn number 64. Thank you.
I greet the church in the name of my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen. God is good all the time. All the time. Amen. Ngiyanibingelela bazalwane in egameni kaJesu mfowethu wami. Amen. I see there is some noise happening there. Can we try and keep quiet, please? Thank you. Before I start my sermon today, I'd just like to invite the church in God's work. As a church, we are focusing on evangelism this year. And we are saying every member of the church, a child, omdala, are to be part of God's work. It's not for certain individuals, but it's for everyone. So part of the work that we need to do is to go out to the community and minister to the needs of the community. Obviously, personal ministries is driving evangelism project, if you are aware of our plans for this year. And part of those plans, we're having Health Expo that we are planning on the 23rd of June. Community Health Expo is not just to do screening for church members now. We are going out to the community. We are targeting the Nokem Park community. We are hoping that as a church, we will all be part of this event where we will be ministering or will be helping the sick in the community. People need hope. People need healing. So Health Expo is one of the tools that I use in the church to get into the community, to start engaging with the community. Now, the model that we are using, I ran away from using the medical model where only professionals come to the community and do Health Expo and then they go away. So what we are hoping to do is to get the church involved, to be part of the screening, to do the screening for the community, the basic screening for the community, as a way to interact with community. Because the key thing there, as much as we are testing for BP, we are testing for fitness, we're testing for sugar and all those things, the main point is we want to start interacting with the community. That's why we need the church to be involved. So we need about 35 volunteers to make the Health Expo possible. So these volunteers are not health professionals. These volunteers are just you and me. Are people, you may not have done anything health related. There is training that's going to take place. It's just basic screening that we are doing. So we invite everyone. The children, there is a role for you in the Health Expo event. The youth, the adults, there is a role for you. So among the 35 people that we need, the volunteers, we need children, we need youth, we need people asebekhulile. So I invite you, Kempton Park Church. The reason why I'm saying this is because we have been sitting for some time. And we are not used to going out. And we might be tempted to think this going out is just for Mr. Ubabugunene and a few individuals. It's for you and me. For the Health Expo to be possible, for the projects or the events or activities that we are planning in the community to be possible, your participation is required. And it's not my duty to do the work of God alone. It's not Ubabu Modise, it's not elders, it's not deacons. Every member, if you choose to accept Christ as your personal Savior, you have started a mission, or you've joined the mission of Christ to go out there and preach the gospel. Amen, church. So this is a challenge, especially to people who are baptized in this church. It's one of our roles to minister or to take the gospel out there. So I'm inviting you on the 23rd, there's going to be Health Expo. Please see where you fit in. In the afternoon, instead of doing a Bible study, we're going to do Health Expo training. It's part 2. We've done training before. This is going to be part 2. We are giving a chance to people who did not take part in the first training to come and see how easy it is. There you will be able to identify a place for you where you can participate. So you are welcome in the afternoon. I invite the whole church to come so that we have this discussion, we have this training. We're going to do a practical session as well. You're going to learn how to take BP. You're going to learn how to test for physical fitness. So in the afternoon, I really urge the church members to be part of this. Amen, church. All right, that was just an announcement. I will come now with us. It's Health Day today. And thank you, Mama Modise, for taking us through the prayer session. It's something we need as a church. People are sick. We are sick. Amen, Bazalwan. Amen. And we cannot go to the community and start talking about health if we are sick ourselves. I'm glad that we had prayer and we believe that God will heal our diseases. And as we go out there, we'll be an example of what God can do to us. Amen. Nikhona bazalwane? Ngiyezwakala kahle ngithi? Right, what I thought I should talk about today is, my title is Healing the Mind. Healing the what? The mind. And you'll see why this is important, why I'm not saying healing the body. We're praying for diseases now, but Ubabu Mondise mentioned this in his prayer. One of the most important things is the mind that is sick. Most of the diseases that we see today are as a result of a sick mind. So today we want to see how the mind can be cured. Amen. Already the preachers will know it's only through Jesus Christ. But let's go through it together. Let's open. I will be preaching a topical sermon, so I will not really, when I read scripture, I'm not going to unpack it. I will just read scripture to support a point. Amen. Let's read Jeremiah 17, verse 9 to 10. And Psalms 139, verse 23 to 24. The first one is Jeremiah 17, verse 9 to 10. Are we together, Bazalwan? The heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who can know it? I, the Lord, search the heart. I try the reins, even to give every man according to his ways and according to the fruit of his doings. That's Jeremiah 17, verse 9 to 10. Psalms 139, verse 23 and 2 to 24. Search me, O God, and know my heart. Try me and know my thoughts, and see if there is any wicked way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting. May God bless the reading of his word in Jesus. Amen. May we close our eyes. Our God, thank you so much for this day. Thank you so much for this message. I ask you, Lord, that you help me to say it exactly as you have given it to me. In Jesus' name, amen. You know, when you read the Bible, it will say the love of money is the source of what? Of all evil. I'm not adding, but I'm just saying also the mind is the source of everything evil. Or the mind is the source of everything good also. So the mind is the source of everything. What I do is because the mind has told me to do that. Are we agreeing, Bazalwan? Now, the Bible is saying the heart is deceitful and desperately wicked. Then the question, who can know it? It means even myself, I may not know anything about my mind. Who can know it? And then God searches the heart. And then Psalms utige, search me, O God, and know my heart. Which means there is one person who can know what you are thinking or who can know your heart. Because even yourself, you get surprised with what your mind can do. That's how powerful the mind. So my first point, what I want us to start with, to look at the power of the mind. How powerful the mind is. God searches not the body, he searches the what? The heart. There is something powerful about the heart, the mind. By the way, when the Bible says the heart, it's referring to the what? To the mind. Now let's look at the power of the mind. If you compare the human being with machines that we have today, let's take the computer for example. The computer can hold approximately 250,000 pictures, about 20,000 songs, That's an average computer. About hundreds and hundreds of movies. And it can process these things all at the same time. And these days, there are small devices that can store so many movies. That's how powerful these machines are today. But there is no machine that can be created that would be so powerful than our mind, or that can process information like our minds. The mind controls all activities of our bodies. And the mind, it can process about what they say, 10 quadrillion operations per second without you knowing. It's a big number. I don't even know how to write it. That's how your mind is. That's how powerful your mind is, without you knowing that you are processing those operations. But it's got one limitation. The mind has got one limitation. It struggles to differentiate between what is real and the thoughts. Let's take, for example, when you are dreaming at night, you're having a nightmare. That thing is not happening. Whoever is attacking you at night as you are dreaming, that is not happening. But your body is responding as if that thing is happening. You sweat, your heart pumps very fast to show that the body is reacting to what you are thinking or what you are dreaming as if it's happening. To show that the mind is limited, it cannot differentiate what is real, what is happening currently, and what is not happening. You look at the placebo effect. There are studies that have been done where two groups of people were they're experimenting, and then one group they inject with a drug that is working, that is supposed to cure the disease, and then the other group is injected with the water. And then as they compare groups, there are so many studies that are done to check the placebo effect. The group that were injected with water, surprisingly, they also felt better. Every pill, every tablet that you are taking, there's a percentage of a placebo effect. Placebo effect, it means if I believe this pill will cure my disease or will treat the pain, if I believe, then definitely I will feel no pain when I take it. That is what is called a placebo effect. Every drug has got that effect. It means that the mind can tell the body that what I'm drinking now will help me. And you get the help that you anticipate. That's how limited the mind is. So in other words, the mind can be controlled. You can tell yourself that this is real, and it is real. Are we together, Bazalan? So whatever, the point I'm proving is, whatever belief you have in your subconscious mind, it will come to reality. And the Bible also supports that in Proverbs 23, verse 7. Whatever you believe in the mind, it will happen. One example of patients who are amputated. We get a lot of that in hospital. Someone is amputated, but they come and complain of pain on the toe. They say, my left toe is painful. But the person has been amputated. Why? Because the mind still believes. You have to unlearn that you don't have a toe anymore. But they are in pain. They don't sleep at night because the toe is painful. That's how deceitful the mind is. Until you learn that there's no toe anymore, that's the only solution to cure that kind of a problem. That's how powerful the mind is. Whatever disease you believe you have, your body will physically experience its symptoms. There is what we call, as we teach students, what you call a student syndrome. We teach them about a condition today. Tomorrow they come to you but say, I feel these things, I think I have cancer. They learn about the disease, now they feel the symptoms. As they are, the night sweats and all those things, they feel them. It's what your mind tells you. Whatever disease, if you think you have AIDS, you will really struggle. You will see you losing weight because you believe you have it. That's how powerful the mind is. Someone told us a story, I'm not sure how true this story is, of someone who was promised a death sentence. He was promised that tomorrow is going to be killed. And then comes tomorrow, they make sure that the environment around him is preparing him for dying. Then tomorrow came, they covered his face, they put him in a space, and he had people talking about now it's time for him to die. We'll use a gun to shoot him. Then the gun went, bah, and then the man went down. They went to check, the man is dead. And there is no bullet, there is no wound, there's nothing. Someone told me. Why did he die? Because there was no bullet. Because he believed. He told himself that tomorrow at this time I'll be dead. And when he had the gun and then he started doing what? The heart started pumping and then he just collapsed and died. That's how powerful the mind is. What you believe you have or what you believe will happen to you, definitely you will experience that. It says about 2 to 4% of the time, you choose what you want to happen. 2 to 4% of the time, you choose what you want to happen. But 96 to 98% of the time, you don't. Let me just prove it. Do we all like ice cream? Now, just 2 seconds, decide not to like ice cream. Decide to hate ice cream. How many of you hate ice cream? After that 2 seconds. Can you see how difficult it is for you to choose not to like ice cream? They say 2 to 3 to 4% of the time you choose what you want to happen. But most of the time you don't choose what we want to happen. Those who love sport, if I tell you today that choose not to like sport anymore, you cannot choose that and then it happens like that. That's how limited the mind is. Which means most of the things that happen in our minds are happening without us knowing about them. Whatever is stored in the back of our subconscious mind, we are attracted to. There's another power of the mind. Whatever is stored in our subconscious mind, we are attracted to. Let me make another example. If you buy a car today, you think it's the best car in the world, what happens the next day? You start seeing that car on the road every time. Why are you now seeing that car every time? Was it not there a day before, a week before? Chances are it was there every time. But because it was never registered in your mind, you did not see it. But because you have it today, then you start seeing it every time. Just to prove that the mind is so powerful. Whatever is stored in the back of your subconscious mind, you are attracted to. Things you are exposed to namhlanje are the ones that shape your subconscious mind. Things that you are exposed to are the ones that shape your subconscious mind. For example, television. Whatever you see on television is stored in your subconscious mind. As much as you don't think about them every day, but they are kept in your subconscious mind. Whatever magazine, whatever conversations you have with people, things that you hear, they are stored in your subconscious mind. The advertisement that you see on television, the things that you see on television are stored in the subconscious mind. The music that you hear, the words of the music, as much as you don't think about them every time, you don't remember them, but they are stored in your subconscious mind. And these are the things that shape our subconscious mind. That makes us attracted to the things without us realizing that we are attracted in these things. Children learn about sex when not from their parents, but because of these short adverts that are being shown in between programs. And children don't really register them, but because they are stored in their subconscious mind, and they find themselves attracted to such things. If you take an average child, the child will observe about 800 murders on television, on average, at least after elementary school. All these extreme graphic things are sinking in their subconscious mind. The appearance of evil. When you see people killing each other on television, it may be fun for that time, but these things are stored in the mind. And you find your child violent at school. Why? Because of these things that are stored in this. They find themselves attracted to such things. Every word you hear from the music will impact your mind one way or the other. Like, for example, the song of Lady Gaga I heard. It talks about bad romance. It says, I want your drama. I want your ugly. I want your disease. I want a bad romance. People like the song. They sing it without realizing what it says. But this message is stored in the subconscious mind. As a result, in their relationships, they start looking for this bad romance and its ugliness. I'm just making an example of things that happen without you really registering them, thinking about them, but the fact that you are exposed to them, seeing them, hearing about them, they are stored in your subconscious mind, and you see yourself attracted to such without you knowing why you are attracted to such things, because you have been exposed to. So the mind does not, it registers everything that you see, everything that you hear. I'm still talking about the power of the mind. Our thoughts create us. Therefore, be careful what you feed your mind. Let's read Romans 12, verse 2. And be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of the mind, that ye may prove what is good and acceptable and perfect will of God. God searches the heart. God searches the mind, and we know why he's interested in the mind. By the way, the devil is also interested in the mind. And God is searching the mind because of the power that the mind has. Now this verse is saying, be not conformed to this world, but ye be transformed by the renewing of your mind. So it means the change that must happen in a person is the change of the mind. What you should worry about, because the Bible says even yourself, you cannot know your mind. It's only God who searches the mind. So it says, do not conform, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. The conforming to this world is what I just spoke about. The things that you see, the things that you hear, the people you mingle with are the ones that shape your mind, how your mind thinks. So the Bible is saying, do not conform to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of the mind, that ye may prove what is good and acceptable and perfect will of God. Thoughts have an impact on physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health. Thoughts have an impact on our physical body, mental, emotional, and spiritual health. The television, the movies, and all the things that we see, that we hear, impact how we think and how we act. That's why God is interested. When we see someone acting, doing something, you should not be worried about what they do. God is interested in the mind and what is happening inside the person's mind. Now, our thoughts can also weaken our immune system. Now, we're looking at how our thoughts will impact our physical body. Sometimes we pray to God and say, God, I have cancer. Please help me. I have diabetes. Please help me. But we see that thoughts can create a disease. Thoughts can weaken our immune system, which can lead to disease. So there is always a cause for a disease. Sometimes diseases are caused by the things that are processed in our minds. For example, let me take, for example, gossip. The Bible is yasikhuluma about gossip, angithi? And we think gossip is just a smallanyana sin, angithi? What happens when you gossip? When you gossip, you can release a hormone called cortisol, which can inhibit the immune system. And also adrenaline can be released, because when you gossip and you hear the gossip, what happens to you? Especially if something is not right, it was said about you, or someone did something that you don't like. What happens to you? You start becoming emotional. It's either you laugh about that person, you are excited, then emotions are involved there. Or you get so sad, or you get so angry with what you hear, or you tell someone with a motive and you are passionate about what you're saying. The reason why those things are happening is because there are hormones that are being released as you talk that trigger the emotions. And the adrenaline, you feel yourself wanting to go and see that person who did 1, 2, then 2 and 3. What happens when these cortisol hormones with this adrenaline happens? If you are a person who gossips every time, which means these chemicals are being released every time. Remember, the adrenaline is causing the heart to pump fast. And it's causing the blood to run fast in the system. The prolonged release of these hormones, they can lead to heart problems. They can lead to many other things that can happen in your body. So I'm just using the example of gossip to say everything that you do or the thoughts can weaken your immune system. So as these hormones are being released, they tamper with your immune system. So if your immune system is compromised, then it can lead to diseases. This is just one small example to prove that our thoughts can weaken our health or can weaken our immune system. You are allowed to stop me if you feel I'm diverting, I'm not telling the truth. Our brains process about 60,000 thoughts about the past, about the present, about the future. And most of these thoughts are negative thoughts every day. Situations do not cause stress, anxiety, or depression. People say, I have depression, I need a doctor, I need this. I'm stressed, I have anxiety, I have this. Situations do not cause these things. Because some people will say, I have stress because I just lost a wife. I have stress because I failed the test. Those things did not cause stress. Those things did not cause depression. What caused depression is your psychological reaction to the situations. Let's take, for example, skydiving. They say we all go for skydiving. What will happen? The same situation will cause others to release cortisol, which is a stress chemical. But to some, endorphins is a good feeling chemical. So the skydiving, the activity or the situation can cause me to be happy about it and then have this good feel hormone that is released. But to someone, as soon as you calm down, you collapse. Dead. Why? Because the situation, the way you perceived it, you thought you were going to die. But to me, when I land, I get excited, I run, I jump, I'm happy. This is proving that situations do not cause the things that we go through today. The depression that you have today is not caused by the situation that you went through. It's caused by the reaction, your psychological reaction to the situation. I can lose a wife today and survive. But you lose a wife today, you don't see it the next day. But same situation. It's how we react to the situation that sometimes will lead to the things that we go through today. Think about your situation, the depression, the stress that you have today. What caused it? How are you reacting to the situation that you go through today? Now, the cure for this lies on simply changing the way we think about our situations. And that's where God comes in. I can go through a situation that is similar to yours, but the way I react to the situation, if I know Christ, will be different from you if you do not meet Christ. Because Christ makes us understand why we go through what we go through. When we read Romans 12, verse 2, we've read that already. Do not conform to this world, but ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. I'll keep repeating this verse. Do not conform. If you conform, you expose yourself to things that are against God. You are creating something in your mind that will make you fail to overcome circumstances. But if you allow God to renew your mind, whatever comes your way, you are able to do what? To face the challenges that you go through. Ngizayifunda nangesiZulu. Ningalingisi izwe. Kodwa niguqulwe isimo ngokwenziwa ibe yintsha ingqondo yenu. Ukuze nibe nokuhlolisisa okuyintando kaNkulunkulu, okuhle, nokuthandekayo, nokupheleleyo. I'll read a quotation from Desire of Ages 4:39. Our habits, our thoughts, our practice that will lead to sin and bring dishonor upon Christ will better be put away, whatever the sacrifice. That which dishonor God cannot benefit the soul. The blessing of heaven cannot attend any man in violating the eternal principles of right. Anyone sin cherished is sufficient to work the degradation of the character and to mislead others. I'll repeat the last sentence. Anyone's cherished sin is sufficient to work the destruction of the character and to mislead others. Still talking about the power of the mind. It talks about the habits, it talks about the thoughts, it talks about the practice. Let's run away from such things because they bring dishonor to God. And let's make sure that at all cost, make sure that we run away from such things. IBhayibheli lithi uma isandla sakho sakwa left sikuhlupha senze njani? Skip. If the conversations you are engaged in every time you think are a problem, cut those because they dishonor God. And whatever that dishonor God cannot benefit the soul. In other words, if you really want to do right, or if you strive to do right, remove all these things that leads you to sin. It could be gossiping, it could be this and that. Make sure that you run away from such things. if you want to benefit personally. I talked about stress. I talked about depression. Let's look at how stress and illness relate. I've already touched on it a bit. They say stress is part of life, and we need a certain level of stress. I'm not sure if I agree with this. We need a certain level of stress to keep going. It's just that you will never know what there's a thin line between that. But stress is part of life. I talked about what happens when you have stress. There are certain hormones that are being released that, makes your body react, makes your heart muscles pump faster, that makes your blood vessel pressure in the blood vessel increase and stuff like that. But the prolonged stress is dangerous. This is called distress. It's dangerous. And the evidence is growing now that is linking stress and illnesses. Think about your illness now and think of things that you think can cause you to be ill. But there's growing evidence. Literature is showing that there's a link between stress and illnesses. Stress has got a significant impact on immune system, as I've mentioned already. And stress hormones, or stress releases hormones that are suppressing the immune system, which leads you to infections. Stress can also release histamines, which can trigger severe bronchoconstriction in asthmatics. Even asthma can be as a result of stress because of these hormones that are being released that trigger the vaso or bronchoconstriction in the airways. So stress is a serious thing that we go through, and it could be the reason why so many of us are sick today. For those who have ulcers, stress can also alter acid concentration in the stomach, which can lead to ulcers. And also chronic stress can also lead to plaque build in the arteries, and you find yourself having blood vessel problems, all because of stress. It can lead to depression. It can lead to necrosis. Necrosis is the mild depression. All this as a result of stress. Can lead to medical and physical illness. And studies are showing that stress also is related to some of the cancers that we go through today. All because of stress. And I said stress is caused by what? But by how we perceive the situation we go through. And these can go and lead to depression and lead to necrosis and also lead to medical condition today. Therefore, diseases are commonly produced and greatly aggravated by imagination or stress. Now, the song that we sang is asking, are you weary? Are you heavy laden? Tell it to Jesus. Why are we read about these verses without really understanding why God wants us to do this? Because He's dealing with the mind. Are you weary? It means, if you are using today's term, are you stressed? Are you depressed? What is the solution? Tell it to Jesus. Because Jesus is concerned about renewing the mind, changing how you think. Changing how you think can also help you to be well physically. Because we said stress, the way you think, can lead to where you are today. Many of us are on an expensive medication for this disease, for that disease, and forgetting that there's something bigger than that needs to be cured. I said my sermon is healing the what? The mind. How much are you spending on healing the mind? And you realize you don't need money for you to know how to cure the what? The mind. But we spend money on trying to fix the what? The hardware. If the software is corrupt, no matter how beautiful your computer is, they will tell you it's useless because the software is what? Is damaged. That's why these verses are relevant. Are you weary? Are you heavy laden? Do what? Tell it to Jesus. And then Isaiah 1 verse 18. Come now and let us what? Reason together. With your body. God is interested in your mind. Depression is one thing that is really making things very complicated in our society. They say depression is a mood disorder characterized by intense sadness, feelings of, that's where most of us are. Sadness, feeling of what? Worthlessness and feeling of uselessness. That's what the simple definition of depression. And it affects so many people today. About 300 million people worldwide are affected by this condition. If you go to our hospital today, you see a lot of workers, people admitted because of what? Depression. Because of what? Stress. And you even find children of God in these problems, where the solution is simple. Are you weary? Are you heavy laden? Do what? Tell it to Jesus. But we see a lot of people admitted because of these problems. And this problem has given us issues in our society. Our country's mental condition is in crisis today. And Seventh-day Adventists are counted among those people who suffer from such mental illness. We hear stories of people killing each other, stories of people killing others. The recent story in Soshanguve, you heard about it. Did you hear about that one? Where a man went to his girlfriend's home and took his children, or 3 children, and then went to his place and hanged them. And then after that, he hanged himself. They found the bodies hanged, all of them. Why people go through such things? And we've had so many other devastating stories, even stories that we know about our Adventist men. They go through such things, they kill themselves, they do strange things. Why? Because the mind is what? Is disturbed. This is one of the conditions in future that will be number one, and it will kill a lot of people. As I'm talking today, there are people who are going through such, and they don't know where to go to. Statistics is growing in South Africa among workers. 1 in 4 employees, mostly men, are affected or have depression. Those who are working, stress is increasing. Long hours demands the situation around you. The way you perceive the situation around you can cause you to stress, can cause you to have this thing that is called depression. No one is immune to this. Even children go through depression, stress, something that you will not think of. And many Bible characters, we see them going through distress, anxiety, even depression at some point. About Job, he went through distress. About Jeremiah, David. Even Christ himself, he was found in a situation that is stressful in the Garden of Gethsemane. So stress is something that is real. Stress is something that, or depression is something that is there and that we need to talk about. When we pray, is one thing that we need to mention in our prayers because it is a condition. We are sick spiritually because our minds are infected with sin. I said stress, our thoughts have an impact on physical body, on our spiritual as well. You see today we're trying to analyze why is the church spiritually down. The problem is where? Is in the mind. Because stress, depression can cause, or thoughts can have an impact on your physical and your spiritual life. The effects of the mind condition are displayed in our homes, in our church, in our society. The problems, the challenges that we see in our church today, in our homes today, is not because of the situation. This one did this, that's why we're having a problem as a church. No, the problem is the mind is sick. That's where God is calling us that, are you heavy laden? Are you weary? Come to me. That's what we need as homes. That's what we need as a church and as a society. We are so mean to each other. We hate each other. We abuse each other in the church, at home. Why? All because the mind is not in the right state. The way I perceive my brother, the way I look at him, the way he talks to me, I interpret the situation and make it worse to a point where I'm stressed about it, I'm depressed, and I react negatively. All because of what I think, all because of the thoughts. They can lead to us hating, being mean to each other, abusing each other. God is dishonored by our thoughts, action, even by our health conditions. Sometimes when God looks at us and we are sick, He's not happy because He knows where the problem is. That's why when you look at Jesus when He was healing, He did not just say, stand up and go. He will address the what? The mind. Because if you are healed physically, it's not enough until the mind is what? Is cured. So it's important as a church, as homes, as individuals, to realize that the problem is bigger than just what we see physically. It's bigger than what we see in the church in terms of measuring the spiritual level of the church. The problem is more on the software. The problem is more on the heart. The problem is more in our thoughts. Because what we do is as a result of what we think. Our characters are built of the habits that are caused by the actions caused by the thoughts, the way we think. Now it says the blessing of heaven cannot attend us if we continue violating the eternal principles of right. Any one sin cherished, I've read this already, is sufficient to work the degradation of the character and to mislead others. When the mind is turned from God, the tempter, who is the devil, can bring them under his rule. When the mind is turned away from who? From God, the tempter, the devil, can bring the mind under his rule. That's what is happening today, most of us. Unless the mind is cured, our physical, emotional, and spiritual health would continue to deteriorate. If the mind is still fed the poison of this world, we are a society with no hope. What is the poison of this world? We talk about food. Food has got an impact in how we think. If you read, there are foods that are associated with depression. Okay, do you want me to mention them? Dairy? Yogurt. Dairy. I'll cover them before I finish. God is warning us that we must stay away from things of this world. We are in these conditions today because we feed our mind with things of this world. I've just mentioned food and people are... Music. If you're not changing that ringtone, that music collection of yours, you'll always be in the state of mind that you are in. Because in your subconscious mind, these things are stored there. And you are inclined to liking things without you knowing why I'm not praying. Why am I not reading God's word? Because you are attracted to things that are stored in your brain. In your phone, the way you do things, your cupboard at home, in the kitchen, the things that you feed your family are the ones that make you worse and worse. So God is warning us that let's fix the mind. And He's interested in fixing. That's why when He was healing, it did not look so interested in the physical. He will say, go walk, after He has addressed the mind. Just God's priority is the mind. Which means now, as we approach situations, as they approach our condition as a church, as individuals, let's think of the mind. Like I'm talking now, there are people who are thinking. And most of our thoughts are evil. You don't see me the way you should see me as I'm standing up. That tells you the power of them. Even yourself, you cannot control it. God is interested in solving that problem. Sin of the great. I was just mentioning things of this world. I said food that we eat, the music, the movies. Umuntu abuzo, what is your hobby? I like movies. It sounds nice. Things that I like sport, I like soccer, I like this. One pastor was making an example about football, how deceitful it is. It was a joke, but he's saying, it's so deceitful. Ukubona ukuthi into kaSathane uthi uphethe ibhola wenza ngathi uyale kanti uyale omunye umuntu ashonele. It was a joke, but he was saying there is devil in everything. You think uzoshaya ngapha kanti ushaye ngapha. He was making a joke out of it, but things that we expose ourselves as God, I'm not saying, I did not say that. Things that we expose, things of this world, have an impact in our lives. There's one quotation on Council on Diet. Sins of the greatest magnitude are committed through the indulgence of perverted appetite. That's Ellen White saying, the sins of the greatest magnitude are committed through the indulgence of the what? Perverted appetite. It's not because of what I've done to you. The greatest sin is the indulgence of appetite, being controlled by the appetite. Just to prove that food can have an impact in our lives. They say good diet makes pure blood. Pure blood makes a well-functioning brain to see where the mind is, how everything is connected to the mind. Starting with the food, it makes the blood pure. The blood makes a well-functioning brain. A well-functioning brain makes a good mind, which means it processes right. Good mind produces good actions. So if you think positive, you do positive. Good actions will produce what? Good habits, and good habits will produce what? The character. So God is molding our characters through this process. Control the way you eat, because it makes your blood poisonous. And if the blood is poisonous, your brain is affected. If your brain is affected, your mind is affected. And if your mind is affected, your actions, your habits, your character is formed. So God is not just there at the end changing your character. He's interested in your cupboard, in your kitchen cupboard. He's interested in what you see. He's interested in your phone. He's interested because he wants to deal with the mind. The battle is in the mind. Ephesians 6 verse 12. It says, for our struggle is against flesh, is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers this world, of this world, against, I'm paraphrasing, against the spiritual forces of the evil in the heavenly realms. So the battle is fought in the mind. That's why God is interested in our mind, because the devil is also interested in our mind as well. So that's why the mind is so important. Our spiritual health can be improved by feeding our minds with good stuff. Philippians 4 verse 8 says, finally, brethren and sisters, whatever is pure, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. Talks about thinking. This is what we should be focusing on. Things that are what? Whatever noble, things that are what? whatever right, whatever pure, whatever lovely, whatever admirable, all these things we should think about if we want to be right in our minds or if we want to be right with God. Proverbs 17 verse 22, a cheerful heart is good medicine, but a crushed spirit dries up the bones. Drying up the bone is the disease that you get now because of the things that you are going through in your mind. Everything is connected to the mind. Minister of Healing, courage, hope, faith, sympathy, love promotes health and prolong life. Let me repeat this again. Courage, hope, faith, sympathy, love promote health and prolong life. That's why we are called to have faith in God. That's why we must have this great hope of Christ coming again. Because if we do not have those, our mind will get sick and will make us do things that are against God. If the mind is well cured, everything comes all right. In healing the sick, the effect of the mental influence should not be overlooked. We're talking of going out to do Health Expo. As much as we're going to be screening people physically, there's a last station for those who have done Health Expo where counseling is happening. That's where we need preachers. That's where we need pastors. After they have tested for BP and all those things, people must realize that it's God that they need. It's not just about their condition. God needs to deal with the mind. Not God He wants to give them hope. God wants them to have faith in Him. God loves them. He sympathizes with them. They need encouragement. That's where we come in as a church to help this dying community. But now, how do we help this dying community if we are sick ourselves? And if we do not have hope, if we do not have faith in Jesus Christ, if we do not have this love that Christ has given us or is expecting us to show to others. If the mind is well cured, everything comes all right. The cure for the mind is found only in Jesus Christ and His cleansing blood. Amen, Bazalwan. That's what most of you wanted to hear. The cure of the mind is found only in Jesus Christ and His ever-cleansing blood. The control of the mind, there are people who are going for these things. The control of the mind over mind. I put that in quotation marks. The control of mind over mind, which is hypnosis, is the devil's invasion or intervention to take our minds away from God. God is discouraging people taking or living for the people. You know about hypnosis, eh? They call it here control of mind over mind. It means I can be able to influence your mind to think the way I think and command you to do whatever you can do and make you believe that everything is all right by taking your mind and taking my mind and controlling it. God is against such. And people, we call those are professionals. They are stealing your mind and making you believe in what. That's not how God wants to cure your mind. God is simply saying, come to me. Let's reason together. Tell me your problems. I'll do what? I'll take away your problems. So let's be careful where we take our problems. We might find solutions, but it's possible that the devil wants to steal our mind to something else. Let the mind be in you, which was in what? Also in Christ Jesus. God is calling us to think as he thought and to do as He did, and is calling us to come to Him. Cure is found in Jesus Christ. There are many verses I can read that tells you that God is interested in the mind and is asking us to really come to Him. I would like to read this one quickly. Can someone read? This is the last verse I'm reading. Exodus 15. In fact, let me not read it because it's going to take us long. Remember when Israel were in the desert and they were looking for water and they could not find water. And the waters of Mara was bitter. or were bitter. And then Moses cried unto the Lord for help, and God answered. What did God do? Let me read this quotation. When Moses presented before the Lord the sad difficulties of Israel, God did not present some new remedy, but called their attention to that which was at hand. For there was a bush or a shrub which he had created, that was to be cast into the water to make the fountain sweet and pure. When this was done, the suffering people could drink of water with safety and pleasure. God has provided a balm for every wound. There is a balm in Gilead. There is a physician there. What I liked about this, God did not present something new. Professionals come to lose their husband. That will not go away. But what happened, God will put a shrub, or he's going to put himself to make the water you are experiencing sweet. Ingo Korasetike with Jesus in the what? In the vessel, you can what? Smile at the storm. Sometimes don't pray that the storm ipume. Pray that God abegion so that you can do what? Storm. That's what Israel experienced. He did not use something new. He used something around them, or he put himself in the situation to make the situation sweet. I'm coming to the closing now. I'll just try maybe be practical a bit for 2 minutes. What is required for a good state of mind? I'm just going to go quick now. What is required for a good state of mind? Accept you have a problem. If you're writing down, this is researched, accept that you what? You have a problem. I have a problem with men who think they can fix things on their own. Accept that you have a what? Problem. It's not a sign of weakness, but what is important, know where you are crying to. Don't go around and cry. There are people here in the church, they may look promising, but when I go to them, they will listen to my problem. Never make that mistake. The only person you should cry to is who? Is God. Accept you have a problem, and then go to the person who can help you, because you cannot help yourself. The mind, you cannot deal with your mind yourself. Number 2, realizing your purpose in life. Know that God has got a great purpose for you. There's another point, the last point, it talks about witnessing, things that are needed. And Ellen White talks about, for us to overcome temptation, let us be aggressive in doing God's work. That's our high calling. Let us be aggressive in doing God's work. All our problems will go away. If we take care of God's business, God will take care of our business. I'm calling the church to go out. Don't say you have this problem, that problem. For you to be right mentally, know your purpose. Know why God called you. God called you to go out there and witness. If you do that, He's going to take care of your needs. So I said, accept you have a problem. Number 2, realize your purpose in life. Number 3, self-direction. Do not allow people to control where your life should go. Let God and you know which direction you must take in life. Number 4, positive relationship with others. There are people who are just themselves. If you do good to other people, you feel good. But if you neglect people, you'll be lonely and stressed and depressed and die. Positive relationship with people. Don't be always among the people who always hate. The next person who comes, you hate also. Love people. God will work in your mind. Number 5, personal growth. God is expecting us to grow spiritually, physically, socially, mentally, spiritually, academically as well. Find something, grow as God expects you to grow. Number 6, be careful of what you put under your nose. You know the thing under your nose? What you put there is what will make you sick what will shape your mind, the way you do things. Number 7, exercise regularly. Rest. Sleep is important. Sabbath was created for us to rest. Sleep was created for us to rest. Pray regularly. Study God's word. When you study God's word, our faith is being increased. What we needed. There's a verse I read about faith. So when we study God's word, increases our faith in Jesus Christ. Okugcina, witnessing. I hope you are writing things. These are things what you require for a good state of mind. The first one, accept you have a problem. Secondly, realize the purpose. Number 3, self-direction, autonomy. Number 4, positive relationship with others or relations with others. Number 5, personal growth. Number 6, be careful of what you put in your mouth. Exercise regularly, rest, pray regularly, study God's word, and witness. Do God's work. Because if you are aggressive in God's work, God will take care of your business. May God bless you. Amen.
Thank you, Brother Kunene. They always say that once you fix up your mind, everything goes well. It's my prayer, and it must be your prayer that you pray to God that every day your mind must be fixed. Because if you don't fix up things in your mind, nothing can work. If you're going to be where you want to be, based on what your mind has been built around. So it's my prayer for me, and it must be your prayer every day. When you wake up in the morning, you must be able to fix up your mind. You must be able to say, this is what I want to be. There's a special request here. Ladies, they normally come up here on Tuesday. They meet here, but there's a lady who lost a bunch of keys. So if somebody comes across a bunch of keys, please leave it with one of these ladies behind me. So to conclude the divine service this afternoon, we're going to make use of song number 64. May the church rise. Thank you.
Let's pray. Our God, the song says we must tell you all our problems. We have acknowledged that we are sick, not just physically, not just spiritually. Our minds are sick, Lord. And you are calling us today to bring all our troubles, to take control of our minds. Lord, forgive us for not trusting in you. Because when we read your word, we hear that you are the only solution to all our problems. And we invite you in a special way that you make us accept that and know that your blood is enough for all the things that we go through. Fix us, Lord, and send our minds abe sober for us to see the devil doing his work, so that we know what we need to do as your children. You have the work that you need us to do, but we cannot do it, Lord, because we are stuck in all these things that the devil has introduced in our lives. Sickness, spiritual problems, even the mind that we are talking about, Lord. We ask you in a special way that you remove all these things and help us to do right, because you have given us practical solutions of how we can solve this problem as well. The diet, the things that we do, Lord, that are not in line with your word, the things we expose ourselves to, we ask that you take them away. Make us focus core energies at all times. This is my prayer. I pray that you forgive all our sins in Jesus' name. Amen.